last meal before a prisoner's execution is a tradition. Carl SIMMONS Jr. in Mississippi took it to a whole new level. Carl SIMMONS requested a whopping 29,000 calories for his last ever meal. Carl SIMMONS Jr., known as the Butcher, for crimes he committed that included dismembering Jeffrey Wolfe, 21, over a drug-related incident. On August 11, 1996, Jeffrey Wolfe and Charlene Brooke Leeser drove from Houston, Texas, to Jackson County, Mississippi to pick up some money from some friends that were in his debt. Upon their arrival on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, they checked into a hotel. Wolfe then left to meet Sonny Milano, Timothy Milano's brother. Later that evening, Wolfe, Sonny's girlfriend and Leeser went to dinner. During dinner, Wolfe asked if Sonny planned to go to Simmons' house that evening. Sonny Milano decided to go to Simmons' house, arriving there after dropping his girlfriend off. When he arrived, Simmons and Timothy Milano were the only two at the house. Simmons asked Sonny to get in touch with Wolfe. Wolfe told Sonny that he would be there in a minute. Sonny conveyed this information to Simmons and Simmons told Sonny to leave the house. Wolfe and Leeser later arrived at the house. Simmons walked into the kitchen to get a beer, while Leeser sat down at the table in the living room. Leeser heard Wolfe and Milano chatting. Wolfe mentioned money he was owed. Apparently, Simmons and Milano owed Wolfe between $12,000 and $20,000. Leeser testified that she then heard gunshots and saw Wolfe fall to the ground. Simmons grabbed Leeser and ordered her not to look in the direction of Wolfe's body. Leeser noticed Milano standing directly behind Wolfe holding a .22 caliber rifle. Simmons took Leeser to a back bedroom and forced her to lie face down on the floor. He placed himself on top of her and began questioning her, asking whether she or Wolfe were law enforcement officers, whether Wolfe had any drugs with him, and who knew they were in Mississippi. She became understandably hysterical, and simply responded that she did not know anything, as she and Wolfe had only become acquainted a few weeks ago. After Simmons finished questioning Leeser, he tied her hands behind her back, bound them to her feet with some rope, and locked her in a metal box with dimensions similar to a large footlocker near his bedroom, telling her he was on a time frame that he could not mess up. Leeser managed to untie her hands and feet and began kicking the top of the box, unsuccessfully trying to get out. After some length of time had passed, Simmons returned to the box and took Leeser out. Simmons was undressed. He forced her to lie face down on the floor of the bedroom. He then raped her. Leeser testified that she thought he was holding a pistol to the back of her head during the assault. Afterward, Simmons tied her up and locked her in the box. While Leeser was secured in the box, Simmons and Milano went about their plan to dispose of Wolfe's body. Simmons began dismembering Wolfe in the bathtub. Simmons, with Milano's help, began distributing Wolfe's remains into the bayou that ran behind Simmons's property using a boat Simmons borrowed from neighbor only hours before. Leeser, asleep and still locked in the box, awoke to the sound of the telephone ringing. When no one answered it, Leeser reasoned that the house was empty. She mustered all of her energy and began banging on the top of the box. The lid popped off and Leeser managed to get out of the house. She grabbed her clothes and ran to a neighbor's house to call the police. Simmons' trial began on August 25, 1997, and 4 days later, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all 3 counts of the indictment. For the kidnapping and rape, Simmons was sentenced to separate life sentences. A separate sentencing hearing was held on the capital murder conviction, and the jury found unanimously that Simmons should suffer death. In 1998, the Mississippi legislature amended Section 99 to 19 to 51, Mississippi Code of 1972. The manner of inflicting the punishment of death shall be by continuous intravenous administration of a lethal quantity of an ultra-short-acting barbiturate, or other similar drug in combination with a chemical paralytic agent until death is pronounced by the county coroner where the execution takes place, or by a licensed physician according to accepted standards of medical practice. While the concept of lethal injection was first proposed in 1888, it was not until 1977 that Oklahoma became the first state to adopt lethal injection legislation. 5 years later, in 1982, Texas performed the first execution by lethal injection. Lethal injection has quickly become the most common method of execution in the United States. 35 of 36 states that have a death penalty use lethal injection as the primary form of execution. The U.S. federal government and U.S. military also use lethal injection. According to data from the U.S. Department of Justice, 41 of 42 people executed in the United States in 2007 died by lethal injection. While lethal injection initially gained popularity as a more humane form of execution, in recent years there has been increasing opposition to lethal injection, with opponents arguing that instead of being humane it results in an extremely painful death for the inmate. In September 2007, the United States Supreme Court agreed to hear the case of Bays v. Reese to determine whether or not Kentucky's 3-drug protocol for lethal injections amounts to cruel and unusual punishment in violation of the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution. As a result of the Supreme Court's decision to hear this case, executions in the United States came to a brief halt in late September 2007. On April 16, 2008, the Supreme Court ruled in Bays, holding that Kentucky's 3-drug protocol for administering lethal injections does not violate the 8th Amendment. The result of this ruling was to lift the de facto moratorium on executions in the United States. The state of Georgia became the first state to carry out an execution since the court's Bays decision, when William Earl Lind was executed by lethal injection on May 6, 2008. Gary Carl SIMMONS Jr. was 49 years old when he received a lethal injection at the Mississippi State Penitentiary in June 2012 for the murder of Jeffrey Wolfe. The former grocery store butcher used his meat-carving knives to dismember Wolfe before scattering his remains in an alligator-infested bayou in 1996. Before facing the consequences for his actions, Simmons asked for a final meal that could have fed a few dozen people. He requested one Pizza Hut medium, Super Supreme deep dish pizza, double portion, with mushrooms, onions, jalapeno peppers and pepperoni. Pizza, regular portion, with 3 cheeses, olives, bell pepper, tomato, garlic and Italian sausage. 10 8 ounces. Packs of Parmesan cheese. 10 8 ounces. Packs of ranch dressing. 1 family-sized pack of Doritos nacho cheese flavor. 8 ounces jalapeno nacho cheese. 4 ounces sliced jalapenos. 2 large strawberry shakes. 2 20 ounces cherry cokes. 1 supersize order of McDonald's fries with extra ketchup and mayonnaise. And 2 pints of strawberry ice cream. It is unclear if he ate the entire meal, however, 90 minutes before his execution. At a press conference held at 4:45 p.m., the Department of Corrections claimed he had eaten about half of his meal and sampled everything but the fries. For his last words, while strapped to the gurney, Simmons said, "I've been blessed to be loved by some good people, by some amazing people. I thank them for their support. Now, let's get it on so these people can go home." That's it. The procedure began and he was pronounced dead at 6:16 p.m. Mississippi has executed 6 inmates in 2012, already the highest number carried out by the state in a single year since 1956, when there were 8 executions. Thank you for watching Death Row.